that was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
This is going to be a very different type of video than you're used to when it comes to my channel. The cherry pie drama is obviously something that everyone is aware of when it comes to Rupaul's Drag Race. I mean, for a queen that made it all the way to the finale to have pretty much 90% of their run be edited out of the final cut of the episodes, it'd be kind of hard for someone not to notice, even if you weren't aware of everything that was happening online at the time that it all went down. However, what I wanted to discuss is something beyond that. The network of VH1, who at the time was the home network of Drag Race when season 12 aired, had actually dealt with a similar drama in the past with another one of their series. Except things ended up being a lot worse when it came to the outcome of the other franchise. In this video, I wanted to explore the fate of a reality show that Drag Race could have ended up having, and result in their whole franchise disappearing altogether. But before we start, okay, everyone has to listen. This is actually kind of cool. This video is sponsored by NordVPN, who's just teamed up with Marvel, and they made a co-branded comic. The tagline, "Defend Yourself Online." And seriously, this is a genius move. You get to enjoy a story while also seeing how NordVPN keeps you safe online. Full disclosure, I use NordVPN myself to watch Drag Race franchises from different countries, and sometimes even to unlock extra movies on streaming services when they're region locked. It's perfect if you want access to everything without restrictions, and honestly, it makes binge watching way more satisfying. So whether you're streaming Drag Race, catching movies from abroad, or just keeping your personal info locked down, NordVPN has you. Here's the real tea. Go to nordvpn.com/greengay or click the link at the top of the description. You'll get a huge discount on a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 4 bonus months for free. This is their best deal anywhere. There is no exception. And yes, it's totally risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee. So no stress, no drama, and you get complete peace of mind. Believe me, if you're an avid Drag Race fan, this is the app for you. Now, let's begin. Long before VH1 picked up Rupaul's Drag Race in early 2017, their network had been flourishing through a different TV show that had been put in the forefront of pop culture. In fact, around the mid-2000s, they had managed to create their own standalone franchise that all started with The Flavor of Love, a reality show competition where contestants all had to battle to earn the heart of Flavor Flav, going through various eliminations every week. Now, even if you're someone that hasn't watched this show, you definitely encountered it in some way or another. For example, Tiffany New York Pollard is a contestant that got her reality TV career debut with season 1 of Flavor of Love. She would then get invited back to season 2 and subsequently earn her own show altogether titled I Love New York, essentially setting her up to find success in the 2010s decade, where she'd go on to participate in bigger shows like Celebrity Big Brother UK, or as of recently, being a reoccurring contestant on House of Villains, being that many consider her to be the original reality TV villain. Anyways, this should at least provide you with the context that the Flavor of Love franchise really was its own standalone thing in pop culture around the mid-2000s. What you probably didn't know is that while the Flavor of Love show in itself went on to last only about 3 seasons, it would end up birthing a huge set of spin-offs that all followed the same format, of one main character trying to find love and a set of contestants that would compete to earn their love. This would go on to become known as the Of Love franchise that produced series like I Love New York, Rock of Love, Charm School, Daisy of Love, and so many more. It essentially became VH1's main production, and it's what most of their audience was tuning in to see. Within that, they were also creating the first generation of reality TV stars. Tiffany New York Pollard was one of the more successful ones, but the network had plenty of time to make even more stars. At least, that's what they thought, because pretty soon, a complete disaster would arrive. From about the year 2006 to 2009, the Of Love world was VH1's biggest reality TV empire. It had so many overlapping casts. For example, some of the girls that competed on Flavor of Love would then get invited to compete on Charm School. And then some of the girls that competed on Charm School would then get invited to compete on yet another reality show, and so on and so forth. Speaking of, as the franchise grew, VH1 also created a spin-off competition series called I Love Money, which brought former Of Love contestants from various editions to compete in physical, strategic, and often ridiculous challenges for a cash prize of $250,000, which is crazy because not even RuPaul's Drag Race has that grand prize. Anyways, the first 2 seasons of I Love Money aired with strong ratings in both 2008 and 2009. And the format allowed VH1 to sort of treat it like its own little all-star seasons for their reality TV contestants that were getting their start on their dating shows. And as someone who's watched most of these seasons, I can say that I Love Money is actually one of the most entertaining shows that came out of this era. That being said, the success of the first 2 seasons led to the filming of I Love Money Season 3 and I Love Money Season 4, both of which were able to complete filming before the scandal that would eventually derail the entire franchise and the future of VH1 as a network. But what exactly happened? In 2009, VH1 launched yet another one of their spin-offs called Megan Wants a Millionaire, starring Megan, who had previously appeared on Rock of Love, Charm School, and I Love Money. The concept involved a bunch of quote-unquote wealthy men competing for Megan's attention. One of the contestants was a Canadian by the name of Ryan Jenkins, who for the most part was pretty charismatic and polished. Naturally, he ended up making it all the way to the end of the season. Yet what nobody knew at the time was that Ryan Jenkins had a violent criminal history in Canada, something that VH1's casting directors failed to uncover because they did not check international records. Basically, this Ryan Jenkins guy made his debut in VH1 through competing on Megan Wants a Millionaire, making it to the finals. And literally that same summer, before his debut season even aired, he was cast on I Love Money Season 3 and also made it to the finals. To clarify, this means that Ryan had filmed 2 different shows before either one of them had even aired, with both being planned for release in the coming months. Unfortunately, here is where things start to get dark really fast. Shortly after filming ended, and right when Megan Wants a Millionaire was beginning to air, Ryan Jenkins did something that I don't think anybody could have ever predicted. In August of 2009, Ryan Jenkins ended up murdering his wife. When the police started looking for him, he ended up fleeing all the way to Canada. The manhunt to find him ended up becoming national news, but just a couple days later, he would end up unaliving himself at a motel. This ended up causing huge chaos at the VH1 network, and the pressure from the public must have been insane because they literally acted immediately. The show Megan Wants a Millionaire was only able to air the first 3 episodes until from one day to another, they pulled Megan Wants a Millionaire off the air after only 3 episodes had gotten to air, and they permanently canceled the remaining of the episodes of the season. But the bigger problem was that I Love Money Season 3, which had also been fully filmed, fully edited, and scheduled to premiere soon, was now also on the line because the word is that Ryan Jenkins ended up also making it either all the way to the end or even winning I Love Money Season 3. Either way, he was at the center of the show's season. So VH1 decided that I Love Money Season 3 would never be released. To this day, you can watch I Love Money Season 1, Season 2, and Season 4, but Season 3 is nowhere to be found, and the footage will never be released to the public. This scandal was actually so massive, it ended the entire Of Love franchise. Even though Flavor of Love had already completed its 3-season run by 2008 and wasn't directly affected, the fallout from this whole drama made VH1 reevaluate every single show in their ecosystem. So VH1 chose to distance itself from the entire format. As a result, they immediately canceled any more seasons for Flavor of Love, I Love New York, Rock of Love, Daisy of Love, or Real Chance of Love. The only exception was I Love Money Season 4, which had been filmed before the whole drama happened, and I guess because he wasn't a part of it, they decided to just release it. But they barely gave it any promotion. Even careers like that of Tiffany New York Pollard suffered from this, as her own shows that were among the biggest hits of the network were all abruptly canceled, literally right when it was about to reach its peak. And it sort of sent a lot of these reality TV contestants into a spiral because suddenly the ecosystem that they were a part of had gone extinct from one day to another. In the aftermath, VH1 completely rebranded their entire aesthetic. The network started to produce other style of reality TV shows like Basketball Wives or one of their bigger hits, Love and Hip Hop. These all still featured the same drama, but in a very different way. Now, what's interesting is how years after the Flavor of Love scandal, VH1 found itself in a very similar situation, but this time with a show that was arguably even more culturally important, RuPaul's Drag Race. And this brings us to the Sherry Pie controversy, which in another universe could have absolutely derailed Drag Race the same way that Ryan Jenkins took down the entire Of Love franchise. For context, right after season 12 dropped its premiere episode, a bunch of people came forward with allegations against Sherry Pie. If you want to know more about that, you can watch this video that'll be linked below. Sherry Pie ended up admitting to her crimes, and she ended up being publicly disqualified from the season and not invited back for the reunion or finale. But what made this a huge issue was that Sherry Pie was not an early boot. She made it all the way to the top 4 of the season, having been a part of some very key storylines that we will never see, especially considering how we've seen through other seasons that the queens that make it to the top 4 do have a lot of dynamics between them that is sort of perfected as the season goes on. So I can't imagine what was going through production's mind when they were faced with the problem of having to edit her out of the whole season. In a way, in that moment, right as the accusations went public, Drag Race was suddenly facing the same exact situation that VH1 dealt with during I Love Money Season 3. You now had a fully complete season starring someone you absolutely cannot have on television. But what do you even do here? If VH1 had handled Drag Race the way they handled the Of Love franchise, season 12 could have been automatically just pulled from the shelves and never to be heard from again. Subsequently, considering how big Drag Race had already become, erasing an entire season wouldn't have just been embarrassing, it could have sent shockwaves through the entire brand. It would have raised a lot of questions even about casting producers. But this time, VH1 made the opposite decision. Sherry Pie was cut from confessionals, edited out of group scenes, and removed from basically every moment where she was present unless it was absolutely unavoidable. And they even added trigger warnings before each episode. Sherry Pie literally ended up becoming a ghost in her own season. There'd be times where you'd be watching the episode and you'd literally forget that Sherry was even competing. And honestly, that decision is the reason Drag Race survived the scandal instead of collapsing under it. The network actually tried to preserve the season instead of cutting their losses here. And if they had gone the route of shelving the whole thing, I do think that it would have ended up making the situation even worse and actually handing even more power to Sherry Pie herself. Anyways, the big takeaway is how similar these two moments actually were. Both franchises were very popular and quickly expanding their reach, and because of one contestant that they cast, they were suddenly facing this very public drama. In another timeline, Drag Race Season 12 never airs, leaving fans forever wondering what went down in that season, while also the queens in the cast themselves never getting the opportunity to see themselves on screen. The franchise's reputation would then take a huge hit. Maybe they would have continued on with Season 13 and 14, but there would always be that gap between Season 11 and Season 13. Thus, Season 12 would turn into lost media, and the essence of that mystery would only really grow as time went by. And at one point, we'd end up talking about Drag Race the same way we talk about Flavor of Love, as a franchise that got taken down by the danger of what happens when not enough of a background check is done on contestants when they choose to participate on reality TV shows. Instead of that though, we did get Season 12, and we got to see a lot more from the rest of the cast thanks to Sherry having pretty much 90% of her screen time be edited out of the series. Now, the reason that I wanted to talk about all this is because the Flavor of Love situation has always been one of the most interesting and almost forgotten moments of reality TV history. And I found out about it a couple years ago when during the pandemic, I ended up watching Flavor of Love for the first time because I had seen so many memes of Tiffany New York Pollard. And literally I was hooked. Like I watched all 3 seasons of Flavor of Love, I watched Charm School, and I started seeking out more and more about what happened to I Love Money Season 3. That's why when the Sherry Pie situation happened to Drag Race, it really felt like things could have ended in the same direction. But Drag Race did end up making it through it. Thanks again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Seriously, this is a service that you definitely want to be a part of if you haven't already, especially as someone that's a Drag Race fan. But even beyond that, it gives you access to so much more content with other streaming services. And it's totally risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee, and you'll be supporting the channel in the process. I want to take a a moment to thank my patrons. In the Elite Pink Squad, we have Matthew Burns, Gay Uncle, Sari Tish, Las Potitas, Cool Gal Nan, Jet Sam Adams, and Natasha De Leon. And in the Gay Squad, we have Lone Resident, Christine Gregory. And in the Green Squad, we have Cayman Rider Furry, Edgar Allan Pup, The Only Sean, IJS, Not a Punch But a Keek, Jack Beck, Galeria Gomez, Sarah G, Scarlet Rose, Boiled Peanut, Not an Omelet But an Egg, Max Whale, Dea, Dea, and Niall O'Hearing. If you'd like to see your name on the screen, you can support me on Patreon. The link will be in the description.